let's move on. Siddharth Roy Kapur's production house, Roy Kapur Films, has secured the coveted TV rights to William Dalrymple's The Anarchy. Acclaimed director Shereen Bhan will bring the best-selling book to the screen, delving into the rise of the East India Company and its enduring impact on India. To dive deeper into this ambitious project, Shereen Bhan sat down with Siddharth Roy Kapur for an exclusive conversation there. Listen in and take a look.
So let's start with the big reveal. What have you got up your sleeves?
Well, we've got The Anarchy, which is a TV series adaptation of William Dalrymple's epic saga on the history of the East India Company. It's one of those books that you just can't put down.
Yeah.
And when I first heard that William was working on this book, I actually found out about it a few months before it was going to be published. So I reached out to him immediately. He was kind enough to give me a manuscript. And I read through it just chugged through it in one sitting. And realized
Are you a history buff?
I am a huge history buff, I am. And it's just...
William Dalrymple cannot be done in a day.
Well, it was one of those things which just sucks you in. Because, I've always been very interested by, the history of colonialism and, of course, the Mughal rule, sort of before that. And the way William writes, he writes with such drama and the way he treats his characters, he just makes them live and breathe. And so I reached out to him instantly after that and told him I'd love to take on the rights. And after a bit of back and forth, because he wanted to know what the vision was, and we realized that we had exactly the same vision.
So what was the vision that you painted for him?
Well, the vision really is about how contemporary the subject really is. I mean, we talk about these global corporations which are larger than most nation states, being in multiple countries and having the ability to actually influence the world. Here's where it actually happened 500 years ago, where you had a global corporation with its own private army coming and taking over a subcontinent that was 25% of the GDP of the world at that time. And, you've got delicious characters in there, from Robert Clive to the Mughals, to the Dutch, to the French, to the Portuguese, to the Jagat Seths, the moneylenders. So it really is a story that has to be told with that epic scope and scale, the way that the Game of Thrones or The Crown have been told. And I think I've always had the ambition of being able to take our content and reach out to the world with it. And this is a story that we should be telling ourselves.
So this is going to be mounted for a global audience.
This is going to be mounted for a global audience.
And you've managed to bag a big name to do that for you.
So we've got Stephen Frears coming on board. I used to watch films like High Fidelity and Dangerous Liaison when I was, in college. And to imagine that the director of those epics is now going to be actually helming The Anarchy is just...
And how did that come about?
Well, our partners Whip, actually, which is a US production company, they've made shows like Mayor of Easttown and Dickinson. Paul Lee, who runs Whip, was running ABC when I was at Disney and running India. And we stayed in touch for a long time. And then he started Whip and I started Roy Kapur Films. And we were chatting about what we could do together. And when I told him about these rights, he said, wow, that's something I'd love to collaborate on.
Right.
So we got together, and through Paul and through Whip, we were able to reach out to Stephen. And he knows William, incidentally.
Okay.
And that helped. And he'd heard of the book, he read it and loved it, and that's how he came on board.
So when do we finally see this being converted into reality on screen?
Well, we're ready with our materials now, we're ready with the writing, and I think the next stage really is to figure out the right home for it, so the right platform. That's a process that's ongoing right now.
So how do you pick the right home for something that you're producing? I mean, give us an example in the context of this with The Anarchy. How do you find the right home?
I think the platform that can actually give you the resources to tell the story in the way it should be told, and that gives you the global reach to be able to reach out to everyone who you believe the story will resonate with, would be the right platform. And I think, you can literally count them on one hand, maybe two. There are 5 or 6 platforms around the world that have the resources and have the ability to be able to give you that reach.
So have talks begun with the Netflixes and the HBOs of the world?
Talks have just begun. A little too early to sort of get into details around that, but it is exciting.